Yeah, welcome everyone. We're very happy you together with us talk about this very important topic today of burnout cultures, of embodiment, of well-being. And I myself, I'm always a little bit late. Shanta always tells me always 3 to 5 minutes late. But today I was very keen to change my normal way of living, of being always a little bit rushed, always a little bit late. And I just told everyone, no, I cannot bring you some ice cream. No, I cannot meet you for 10 minutes because I cannot rush to come to this event. Because here for the next 2 hours, we really want to calm down and find out what is our inner answer to the question. Yeah, it's actually a journey we're trying to go together through a process where we find out about what do we really need not to burn out in circumstances of high insecurity and always new challenges. And this is actually what the whole FindingSustainia journey is all about. We really want to mingle with personalities, with interesting characters who are open to share needs and experiences and thoughts and ideas to create something new, to co-create answers to questions we all have, and to maybe find common answers and to take these answers and bring them into the world together.
Today we are going to speak about how we can handle complexity. So from my perspective, there are all kinds of elements that an organization and an individual can implement for more organizational and individual well-being. So for instance, I know that deep work is very important, that we have times where we don't have any deeps. It's important to have good sleep routine. So all of these things are very clear, even though hard to implement, but we need to get back to the individual because we are still different. There are some needs we all share. That is that we feel in a community, that we feel recognized, that we have autonomy. At the same time, there are things which are different. And today, we are in a society where we have very often disconnected ourselves from our bodies. And this is why I'm extra excited to be speaking with you, Ann, because in our conversations, we've often found that our approaches fit together very well. And before we start, we'd just like to hear your comments in the chat section where you find that caring burns you out and actually means that you're not caring sufficiently for you. When you're burning for a cause, where do you feel you are burning yourself out, and where do you feel that caring actually replenishes you? Maybe something comes to your mind. You can also just note it down for yourself. We just like you to kind of start opening yourself up to that, going back to your own body and to your own individual experience. What we have noticed in our team, we are all kind of different. We've done the Myers-Briggs test, for instance, and I'm an INFJ. I'm extroverted, but I recharge by myself when I need alone time, I need space. And we are all a little bit different, and we have integrated that in our team. So we'd like you to just think about it and just add it in the chat whenever something comes to you. But now we will start with the most fundamental question on what is embodiment?
I guess you're asking me. So I think there's many different definitions of embodiment, and it's maybe not the best word, actually, because if you really look at it, every single one of us is inherently embodied. But I think what we mean when we say embodiment, what I think we mean when we say embodiment, is that we're reconnecting to the feedback system that's inherently in our body. And another way of saying this, which I find kind of beautiful, is it's a way of connecting to our cognitive functioning as an organism. And that's coming, that this definition of cognition is specific, and it's coming from Lynn Margulis, who's a biologist, who was a biologist, and coming from Umberto Maturana and Francisco Varela. And they were looking at all life as being cognizant, intelligent in this degree. And in the research I've been doing, what I think is actually fascinating is because we have hyper-valued the intellect and our consciousness, our eye sense and our thinking capacities, at the same time, we've suppressed a lot of our cognitive functioning, our visceral, animal, organismic functioning. But that functioning, that feedback from the body is what gives us the information we need to know to keep ourselves healthy and sane in the world, to figure out that this is too much, this is enough, I need something, something doesn't feel right here. All of these things, it's in the body. We know it, what's the feeling in your gut? And the hard part is, what do we do with those feelings once we feel it, when they're not comfortable? And I think that'll be a little bit of what we're addressing today too.
This is a very exciting subject. What I've noticed at first, if I'm giving a workshop in an organization, there's almost a sense of confusion around what well-being means. It just means adding more. It means, it just at first, meets resistance, but it is actually a lot about subtracting and a lot about having that space to go back to yourself in order to feel what is right for you now or what is not. Very often it's not even about us being tired all the time, but about finding the right space to do the right thing. And I feel that, first of all, organizations don't honor that. But if I speak about myself, there are times where I don't even feel I'm exhausted or I'm in need of nourishment. And what I'd love for you to share with us some concrete ways how we can really follow what our body says. If that makes sense as a question. How can we care deeply and give a service to this world? Because that's what I think all of us in this group share in one way or the other. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here and giving 2 hours of our precious time to this cause. And at the same time, still stay good in ourselves and feel that there's this replenishment, this regenerative sense.
Yeah. And actually, one thing I've noticed, so I've spent a lot of time, I'm quite old right now, so I've lived a long time, and I started asking some really important questions early because I was having a really hard time staying here. I was extremely challenged as a young adult and a teenager. So I started asking those important questions really early. And, one thing that I have learned is there's so much actually that our body is teaching us every step of the way. And one of the most beautiful things is in our breath. So let's just breathe for a second, because I need to. Just help me breathe for a moment. So if you just kind of plant yourself, so you're going to lengthen your spine a bit so your lungs have space, so your organs have space. Okay. And then just breathe deep into the lower part of your lungs, the back of the lungs, and then just fill the lungs from the bottom to the top. And when you're done, exhale all the way. And just do that again. You can exhale out the mouth if that helps. Just get a little bit of that extra breath out, and again. And just exhaling. So one thing that's in the breath, and you can keep breathing if you want to, but one thing that's inherently in the breath is a cycling of nourishment and cleansing. So So this is our metabolism working. This is our body at work doing the miracle it does. It does it at every level. It does it on a food level. It does it on a breath level. It does it on a mental level with thoughts and information. And it does it on an emotional level as well. This intake and then a sorting, a sifting through, like, what do I need? What do I hold on to? What do I use to construct myself as a body? And then the exhale, getting rid of what is not of use. So every breath we always have available, because always, no matter what, we have available that possibility to just, okay, new breath, new nourishment, and then get rid of the stuff that we don't need. Yeah. So I find that just referring back to that process of intake, processing, cleansing, distinguishing, and then getting rid of, but we don't, because of the time thing. Who brought up time already? Was that Luciana? We were talking about time a little bit earlier. And, this has been coming up a lot in my life and around me, is there's this compression of time. We're supposed to get so much done so fast. And there's no time to digest. There's no time to eat. There might be time to sleep, but our brain is so active, we might not be able to sleep. But there's not really time that we actually consciously give to processing, to cogitating on what we've lived through. And I've recently found one thing I forgot. It's like a stupid thing. It's like, what is it that helps you to do that processing? What is it that helps you digest? What is it that helps you ponder? And make sense of what we lived through. For me, the stupid thing I found is like making earrings. I used to do it when I was really young because I bought so many earrings. I said, Ann, you should just make earrings. It'll be so much cheaper. And, but the process of like choosing colors and shapes, I'm not too attached to it. I don't really care how long it takes. And as I'm doing it, I'm processing. And this is one way for me to find that aspect of balance. So there's the work and the play and rest. We talk about that. But then there's sleep, there's nourishment, and there's play. We need to play to think well. And it's so hard to when the world is burning, it is so hard to give ourselves permission. And there are moments when we don't have time. When this moment right now, it's an emergency, we must respond this way. We have to just do that. But then we need the time after to recuperate. But during times where that emergency is not right on us, then in those moments, finding that balance, giving ourselves permission to play, to re-nourish, to turn our attention away and just set it aside for a moment. It's so critical for me. Because otherwise I start ruminating and I'll just, but my whole body is ruminating with me. So it's really, really hard on our health. So just finding a way to stop the rumination. Is there something I can do? Okay, fine, I do it right now. Okay, I set it up and I do it. If there's nothing I can do, it's not my turn. I have to wait for information. I have to wait for someone else. There's nothing I can do. To sit there and ruminate is not going to help me be ready to be strong when I need to be. So I find this balancing factor really strong. And for me, it starts just the memory of it is in my breath.
That's so beautiful. And something that you just said resonated with something Santosh had said in an earlier conversation, and that's about the mind-body divide based on Descartes. Why and how do we disconnect? Because something that our body created to protect us so we don't feel the shock, the pain of something potentially dangerous. It's meant to be protecting us. It's actually nowadays hindering us from feeling ourselves better. And I'm sure you have some insights on that. I mean, I have observations on that, but I think it's so important to realize why and when we are disconnecting, and also find ways to get back to that. I mean, sometimes I need to be in that persona where I just need to get things back going. But when I get back, I need to also switch back to my mother persona. And these are subjects I find we're not talking enough about as a society. But how to get back from that state of rush, going slow, and feeling ourselves, and be intentional even about the disconnection.
Yeah. I think what I could maybe share are just some sort of physical techniques in a way, really, just simple things we can do, because each one of us are going to have different things that shut us off or that trigger us into kind of disconnect. And each of us will probably have different things that actually bring us back into ourselves. I know some people, like, they like to sing, like that feels really good for them. Some people need to go for a walk and clear their head, you know, and it really, some people love, like my dad gardens, my husband cooks, yay. But, you know, but each of us, like, what is the thing that just works for you? Like that you can make it work for you. And maybe, you know, I'm wondering, Shanta, maybe we could take a second for each of us to just take a second to ask ourselves, like, when do you disconnect? When do you, like, what are the situations or the instances where you find you're not feeling, you're not, you know, or you're feeling, but you're feeling strained. You're feeling like on the point of burnout, or you're feeling like you can't take it anymore, but you have to keep going. Like, what are the situations? Because it's those are the situations we need the tools for, I think, right?
Yes, that's a very beautiful idea. Please share whatever is emerging to you in the chat, or just share it with yourself on a note of paper. If I think about myself, I have observed that I disconnect from myself when I feel there are a lot of expectations on me which are difficult to fulfill, and which I then still try to fulfill. But then there have been times where I was lying down in bed and everything was just circling around and I couldn't quite sleep, even though sleep was really what I needed. And this is, as you said, because I didn't have time to digest and process. I've also realized that it's actually me who creates some kind of compulsion around that, because I've noticed that if I take myself back, I actually have much more choices and scope to negotiate with others, myself, and find win-win situations. Luciana says, I think it happens whenever we are an object rather than the subject. It has to do with this expectation that Shanta mentioned. That's actually a very, very beautiful way to put it, when you become an object rather than the subject. And it's true. It's something where we actually choose to victimize ourselves in some ways, and where we take away our own autonomy. Victim or actor? That's also an interesting comment.
Yeah, I'm thinking for myself, just to share as we're, you know, kind of pondering on the question. I have a couple of triggers. One is when I'm rushed in time and I feel like I can't get everything done, like I just gonna dig in really fast in there. And the other is when I feel I get really excited about things, and then I kind of, there's so many beautiful things to do. There's so many important things to do. There's so many things I care about doing, but then I take on kind of more than is reasonable and more than I can actually balance with. And for me, actually, the question I have to ask myself there is, what's actually driving me to take on so much? Because when I unveil sort of the layers under that, sometimes what I find is a sense of not being enough, and that I need to do more, you know, and not feeling like, you know, actually just doing this one bit is enough. Sometimes I feel responsible for everything, and I feel like I have to do everything, but like learning for me, like I have to remember about, you know, like, you know, I was raised in the US and I was taught specifically, you're on your own, figure it out, you're on your own, but it's such a lie. And there's such a beauty in coming to rely on community, you know, and of course there's always the risk, you know, some people, you know, come through and some people don't, but we are not alone. And I think that's, for me, you know, one thing I have to kind of come back to again and again as well.
You're cut off, Anne, I think, or is it my connection?
I heard you very well, Ann.
Okay. Yeah, everything's fine.
I think it was my connection.
Because you froze, freezing.
So what I was also wondering is how that could translate itself on a feminine perspective and on a masculine perspective. What I hear also from, for instance, Andrea's comment, when I'm lacking successful experience, it all comes back to a sense of scarcity and that we're not being enough. And the distinction you just had was when you feel you're lacking time or when you're very passionate. And I can also observe that with myself. Abhinav and me, we came up with a concept called fake flow. And that is when it's actually kind of rewarding, but you then get addicted to that experience and you just don't know when to stop. And then at some point you're like, in Germany, we call it a Duracell bunny, when you're just like that, but actually you start to do nonsense things. And what you should really be doing is take a rest, breathe, and go back to the body. Yes, Abhinav, a dopamine kick. And that's also a very, very important subject. And I think that's also an important check when we go into well-being or anti-burnout subjects is taking that breath back and seeing, am I acting from scarcity or am I acting from abundance? And just identifying that is a very important element. And I have been practicing that since a while. And very often it emerges quite quickly, and sometimes it takes me days, but it does emerge. That there are projects I'm actually taking because intellectually I find them great. But deep down, I know it's not so well. And I have started observing my body. And in my case, I don't know how it is with you all, it can translate itself with a constricted throat or a constricted chest or tummy. And I have observed that this often reflects a different set of emotions, like shame, guilt, or kind of not wanting to speak my truth because I don't want to get angry. There are all these different ways my body holds in emotions and information.
I'm looking at what Carolyn had said as well. And she's saying, that it seems like it's an ego kind of thing. And, it's not my favorite language, but yes, for me, it's like, yes, it's what, like our thinking, like the ideas we have about stuff makes us crazy. And this is kind of what I mean about kind of reconnecting the consciousness and cognition aspects, the body and the mind aspects, because if we just do body, honestly, it's like there's some scary stuff in there. And there's like, like we live together, we have social rules of what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. So we do need to kind of moderate the response to some of that information, particularly sexual and, aggression and things like this. Like there is a role for that cognition to help us manage, the consciousness to manage that. But, the cognition aspect, one of the questions that Shanta was asking me that I think is really beautiful is, how do we feel our bodies? I can take it for granted, but there's a really nice exercise. It's called a Vietnamese Bath that I'd love to walk us through, just so you can, we're on a screen. It's a horrible thing, but you are real in your home, wherever you are, you're real there. You can touch yourself, you're real. Like, remember, you're real. So this Vietnamese bath is just it's a lovely, what it's doing on a neurological basis is tactile stimulation, which helps us know where we are, how we are, what we are, like that we're a body. And the Vietnamese bath starts, so if you've got glasses, you could take them off. I'm just going to rub your hands together until you've got heat. So we're starting with palming, which I think we've done before. And this is just a way to warm up the hands and rest the eyes. So once you've got some heat, you're going to cup your eyes with your hands. And then as you're letting your eyes rest here in the sockets, let the back of the neck relax. Let the shoulders relax. Go ahead and breathe into the back side of your body. And go ahead and slow the breath down. So we actually have to slow down to feel. From here, go ahead and massage between the eyes and around the eyes, so into the forehead. Don't do this too fast. There's a whole bunch of nerve endings along here that help us with, it's like they're connected to the relaxation reflex. So you want to do this slow enough that it feels good. You're still breathing. Exhale particularly. You can move around to the jaw and just the whole face. So you can tap or rub, but you want to stimulate the whole face. And then from here, you're going to take your fingertips and scrub your scalp. So it's going to be really noisy. Okay, so just enjoy the sound, bathe in the sound. And keep exhaling, breathing. So if you don't forget to breathe. I know it messes up your hair totally, but it's really good for your hair too. So make sure you exhale. So easy to forget. Okay, and then from here, you're going to take the sides of your hand in front of the ear and you're going to rub vigorously. And same thing, there's a lot of noise, just bathe in the sound, okay? Good, still breathing. And then you're going to take one hand and rub the top of the shoulder, the neck, and down the arm really rigorously. You want to stimulate the skin all the way down to the top of the fingers and then back up the underside of the arm. Okay, let it be rigorous. You want to stimulate so everything tingles, and then down the armpit, the side. Keep breathing. And then the other side, so neck and shoulder. Still breathing down all the way to the fingertips, and then back up. The armpit, still breathing. So you have the tendency to hold your breath, just notice it. From here, just see if you can get your whole back, so behind the neck, and then however you can get back there, whatever it is, just to stimulate the whole back side of your body. Still breathing. Okay, and then the sides, and then the top, so a little bit on the throat gently, and then the top of the chest, so the collarbones and the sternum. And then from here, you're going to take the sides of the hands on the diagonal. These are the pectorals. And then you're rubbing on the diagonals. Okay. If you can't get this way, don't worry about it. It's a weird position. Okay. And then from here, so if you were in the privacy of your own home, you could stimulate the chest as well, but we're not going to do that just because we're on camera. And then from here, you're going to take the sides of the hands and then the rib cage. So for women, it's the bra line if you were wearing a bra, but for it's just the ribs under the chest. So side to side, nice and rigorous. Okay. And you should probably, well, usually you feel a little bit of heat coming in about now. And you're still breathing. And then to the belly. And still breathing. That exhale is just cleansing, letting everything stimulate. Every cell in your body gets nourished with every breath. And there are trillions of them, I think. I forget how many, but there's so many cells in your body. And each one is going every time you're breathing. It's really, really good for them. So from here, you're going to go to the back. So you're going to, the hip and under the buttocks. Okay. So I'm just going to let you have the visual so that you get the sense. Okay. But just for yourself, under the hip, the buttocks, the thigh. Keep going. And if it feels a little bit numb or kind of too thick, you can use the knuckles to rub a little more vigorously. Okay. So all around the thigh, the knees, one knee, sorry. And then down the shin and the calf. Okay. And same thing. You could use the knuckles or you could use the flat of the hand and then your ankle. Okay. As you get down to your feet and your legs, I would do this with a bit of gratitude. So it's still rigorous, but be thankful as you do your feet for these sweet feet that take your weight every day and you don't even think about them. Okay. Well, usually we don't unless they're hurt usually. So your toes, the top of the feet, under the feet, foot. And then we're going to go back and do the other side. Okay. So from the hip, the buttocks, the thigh. Still breathing, nice and rigorous. Use your knuckles if you need to. And then the knee, shin, the calf, ankle, the foot, nice foot, thank you foot, good foot, the ball of the foot, the toes. All right, and then from here, just come on back and sit, and go ahead and sit upright so your lungs can breathe, your organs can breathe. Close your eyes, just feel what it feels like to be in your skin. And check in for the tingling sensation of the skin. Maybe you can feel the beating of the heart. And maybe if you bring your attention to your breath and the heartbeat at the same time, You can feel how the breath and the beating of the heart work together. Sometimes we move so fast, we don't let them align or harmonize. But if you slow it down just a bit, you'll find the rhythm of your breath that actually harmonizes with the heartbeat. Good. And then from here, you can check in. Emotional level, how are you feeling? Okay, don't be scared by the emotions. Give yourself just a little bit of space to say, okay, it's not good or bad. That's just how I feel. In terms of any physical pain, discomfort, or ease. And again, whatever you find, it's not good or bad. It's just what it is. It's information. Mental thoughts, ideas, what's going on in your head. And again, a little bit of space so you can observe it. And again, it's not good or bad, it's just what it is. And then energetically, what kind of energy do you have today? It's not good or bad, it's just what it is. And then from there, with that sense of just where you are, how you are, not good or bad, just what it is today, it's a good place to start from in order to make your decisions.
Thank you so much, Ann. Personally, I'd like to admit that I never feel stressed about the next VISH-ring because I know that'd be a wonderful mindfulness moment. And it just always feels like I'm doing something really great for myself and something nice for society. And this is where service to society doesn't feel like a chore, but something that is rewarding in itself. And I'd like to pick up on one of the comments about feeling that there are so many roles, for instance, parenthood, being successful at work, housework, and maybe a social person as well, and then how to find time for ourselves. And from a well-being perspective, it is important to time box things instead of measuring ourselves with the things we have accomplished. Sometimes it can be very helpful to just say, I'll spend 30 minutes on my emails and that's it afterwards. And in general, have more realistic expectations, because otherwise it always feels like a barrel without a ground. That's one of the most important insights I can share on how to kind of feel less divided and always running behind time by really, and also in the evening, writing down the to-dos for the next day, for instance, in terms of office work. And that will also elevate the stress in your brain, because otherwise your brain will keep on revolving around that. And another part is schedule in me time. And that can just 10 minutes, but these are your 10 minutes. And our brain will look forward to it. It will be our anchor during the day. Will be, okay, this is still my time. Whatever that is, it can be time with our loved ones, it can be time just by ourselves, but having that little island to ourselves means a lot. Something else that we underestimate is our devices. Switching that off at least 1 hour before sleeping time can also give our brain a cue to wind down. Gratitude rituals, all of these things can really help to have a sense of ownership of our lives. A lot of us struggle with that sense of being basically victims or slaves to all these external demands on us. But it is important to get back a sense of control and also question a few things. Set boundaries at work. Set boundaries with ourselves. Set boundaries with our spouses, our kids. All of that are very important aspect. I mean, I think you and me, Ann, could be speaking forever, but for brevity's sake, because something we haven't announced yet is that we'll also take you to the VISH process, where we can co-create embodied well-being. But before that, we want to give some space to a Q&A session, where you can now just come up with thoughts that emerged, questions that emerged, things you want to share with us from your own perspective and expertise. Is there anything else you want to add on before we go towards the Q&A?
I think the one thing I wanted to say was, I had seen Abhinav when you were speaking previously about frugal innovation, and the word frugal isn't my comfortable word, but like the idea of the simplicity and really starting from the simple basis of things, like why make it complex if it can be simple? It seems to me like reconnecting to the body's feedback system is the simplest, most, you could say frugal, but like the simplest sort of way to stay sane, to stay healthy, to stay productive, to just really take in that information of, what's too much? When do you feel stressed? If you feel stressed, it's information. So I think one thing I often say in the classes when I'm teaching, I teach a lot of yoga classes, and one thing I will say is, it's not good or bad what you meet. What's interesting is this information. What do you do with it? What do you do with the information you gather? What kind of choice do you make? Choices do you make? How do you respond to what you're confronted with in yourself and in the world? And just making those choices consciously is I don't know. It's simple. So it kind of aligns to that idea of frugal innovation. It's like we already have it.
And something I find very important is to look at how important we are, and at the same time also find solace in the fact that we are just a part of this big world. And it's important to understand that whatever is truly good for me is truly good for everyone else. And this whole sacrifice idea is actually harming us and making us sick from inside, because it always means what our body is saying is wrong, is just inconvenient and is in our way, whereas our bodies actually, it's important to make our body our ally and find ways to integrate its wisdom. And so we can really wake up every morning in a fresh way and look forward to our day ahead and to the tasks ahead. And in our last meeting with Caroline, we also spoke about how important autonomy is, how important it is to feel that what you're doing makes sense. And when we are in organizations that micromanage us, it's much more difficult to have that sense of accomplishment, that sense of being an integral, appreciated part.
And I think what's important, what we want to stress today is that all of us are change agents, and we all know the feeling you described, Ann, that we like to take care of everything. We like to throw ourselves into this world and just do whatever is needed and do it all the time. And what would be your suggestions to distinguish what we can handle and what not, or where to stop? Because I really feel for this group of audience, or the change agents we are, this is an ongoing question.
It is such a good question. It really is. For myself, I mean, everyone's going to find their own tactics. I don't think there's a single, answer to that at all. But for myself, what I have chosen to do is to get really clear about who I am and what I'm here to do, really. And this is coming from when I was raising my son. I guess me and two other moms, we used to watch the kids playing on the playground, and it was just fascinating. At 1 and 2 years old, you could see the characters and the skill set, sort of the inherent qualities that each of those children had, and they were distinctly different. One was definitely the great communicator. One was a physical gymnast at 1 year old, and the other was a philosopher. It's like, oh my God, like each one is different. And we don't often take the time to acknowledge, I think, what we do really well. And this is something I've taken a lot of time to sit with and help people do, because it helped me so much to really identify what are my strengths, and not just strengths, what are my qualities, and what is it that I'm here to do, me? Like, what is it that gives me great satisfaction to do? What is it that I can't help but not do? Who am I? And what am I here to do? And then where am I? What's the need in the world that I'm in? I ask for myself, because I've got a number of different possibilities of how I can approach something. I ask, what's already covered? If it's already covered, I don't need to turn my attention there. There's lots of people doing that. Like, fine, they're good. Where is it that someone needs me that it's not covered? So I go there. And then the other thing I look at is with the skill sets that I have, which are very specific, how can I lean into the issues or the challenges that are important to me? And then I look for where those converge. So that's kind of how I come at that. I don't know if that answers your question, Anna.
Yeah, wonderful. And yeah, we all know what you are here for and what your strengths are. They're very obvious. And yeah, maybe Shanta, you also like to share where you draw the line and where you decide.
It's very often a case-by-case situation, and it's also a question of where I start and where I end. So it's good to identify also our weak spots. Is it that in childcare that our partners are the ones who are quickly exhausted or express the exhaustion more quickly than we, because we internalize that exhaustion much more, and that we then tend to feel responsible to compensate that, even though my bucket isn't full enough for that. I'm not just talking about myself, but it's something I've observed in a lot of mothers, that they are full-time working, and at the same time, when they find their partners exhausted, feel a calling to do that. But could that feeling of help actually mean, it can actually even mean some kind of arrogance where we feel we can do more than the other? And is that really the case? And isn't that a way to even take opportunity from the other? I mean, that's just a work thing, a family thing, but the same applies for work. Asking ourselves, where am I really empowering someone else and acting empowered, and where it is where scarcity comes in, fear, obligation, and guilt, and even some masked arrogance where I feel I can do it better than you. Instead, there are ways, and very often it is also important because, for instance, in our team, we hold each other and we feel held because we know each other's competences. What Anna can do with graphics, there's just no way I can do it. And if I tried it, and it's important for me to learn that, but it is good to know there's someone who can hold me. And so that's important, and to distinguish that from these masked ways where we are in that overgiving aspect, where it's coming from emptying our buckets.
Yeah, I also like the idea that sometimes it's better to take something away, or to really have this feeling of essentialism and deep dive instead of trying to fix it all. And I like that a sentence, accept the sacrifice if you decide not to do A or not to do B, because doing A and B would maybe be a compromise. And if you decide for B, accept the sacrifice that for now you're not doing A. It really helps in so many situations.
And something that you just said, Anne, is crucial, and that is, we are all different. Some of us are meant to be in an organization we care about, and some of us are meant to be freelancers. And it is important to do a deep dive into what and who you are and how you function. And that already, if you understand you have a choice, it doesn't mean that you're not paid for that choice. But if you feel you have that choice and you act towards your values and integrity, and you see you have a choice and you start to open up to that choice, and of course not precipitate the decision and just throw it all away. That's not the point, but understand that you can be the CEO of your life, and that this is important. And that actually gives you the willpower, the grit to go through with whatever you really want to. And that doesn't mean it won't be hard, but it will mean it's your choice. And that in itself gives you a sense of mastery. However, now it's time to go to the wish process. I'm wondering, shall we do the meditation now or at the end of the process? What do you think, Ann or Anna? With Santosh.
Since we are quite relaxed after the Vietnamese bath, maybe we can start with the wish process right away and then
do the beautiful
have Santosh in the end as a
and
final,
showering us with love and
final present. And
yeah, I'm already looking forward to the meditation part with Santosh. He very last minute agreed to do that for us. It's wonderful to have these all these known faces in our rings who have so many different talents.
And maybe before starting with the VISH-ring, I know you just said the question, what am I here to do, and what is already covered. And I know that Shanta is our expert in Ikigai. I know we didn't talk about this topic, raising it here, but maybe Shanta, you can just add in 5 sentences how the Ikigai process can help us all answering this question, because I feel everyone on the weekend sits there and asks themselves, what am I here for? And then the Ikigai concept, I think, can help.
Of course. So Ikigai is a Japanese concept, probably most of you know, which loosely translates into the reason to get up in the morning. And what it means is you have 4 areas of your life aligning. And when they do align, that's what is called your Ikigai. And the first aspect is what I'm good at. That can be taxation, that can be technical analytical stuff, it can be creative stuff, whatever it is, what you're good at. And don't think towards a direction, but just think about what you're good at. Then the second one is what you're passionate about. Causes, be it something very small and concrete. It can be also something for the world, gender equality, sustainability. Then the third one is what the world needs. It is also very important, kind of looking whether there's a need for that. And the fourth one is what you can be paid for. And what I've noticed is that many people only have 2 circles touching. Either they are good at it and can be paid for it, or some activists are passionate about a cause, the world needs it, but it's not really effective. They can't be paid for that. And then there are also people who have 3 circles, but to make 4 circles meet, it often takes some time. And in my case, I had, with FindingSustainia, something the world needed it. I was good at it. I was passionate about it, but it took me a little while to understand that I could also be paid for that. And this is how my freelance life started. And these are actually very important questions. They seem simple, but once you start that, your subconscious will actually show you stuff.
The most important thing for mindfulness, a beautiful, nice smile. Very nice smile. Yeah. And then with the smile, just kindness and gentleness. Express kindness and gentleness to ourselves. The intention, and the vibration of kindness and gentleness to ourselves. Those are very important. More important than the breathing and what we will do.
Let's try to take this utopies, this wish process into our daily lives and share it with people around us. So they themselves also get that taste of that better world.
From now on, we're all ambassadors for this better world. And dreaming big is what we're doing here and what we really want to foster. And
yes,
so thank you everyone for joining, and please join again. And we will send you the recap of this event, and we will have the speaker parts on YouTube and working on a podcast. So we're happy if you follow our work and be in this journey together with us.
Our next event is on the 8th of April, again from 5 to 7 CET. It's going to be featuring Elena and Santosh. We're already very excited about it. If any interesting speakers and experts come to your mind, that includes yourself, please get in touch with us. We need all of us to kind of create that better world. So we are always also looking for volunteers, for people who want to co-create with us with whatever skill you have. Maybe you're super good at marketing. Maybe you have a special pet subject you're passionate about. What we're trying is we create intersections. As you can see, we just played around embodiment and organizational well-being. These are two subjects that in itself exist, but rarely together. And that's the intention of what we're creating right now. And so please be on the lookout for us. We'd be eternally grateful.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Let's close this with a
Good night,
big heart.
Santosh, and have a nice dinner.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
guys.
Happy
Everyone.
weekend. Bye.